Trenton Journal is for people who won't take no for an answer. Trenton Journal is for community leaders. Trenton Journal is for people who won't settle. Trenton Journal highlights some of the positive voices in the community and fills in the information gaps through original reporting.
Welcome to Capital Conversations. I'm your host, Kenneth Miles, founder and publisher of the Trenton Journal. Each episode, we bring you change makers and stakeholders who are making an impact in the city. And today, I have the honor of having with me Mayor Reed Gusciora.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for finally making time to sit down. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a while, but I think
we're both busy.
Both busy, but I think there's no time like the present to make things happen, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm glad to have you here with me today.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
So as I was making my notes for the show, I was just like, how do I start, right? So I want to start by saying that we are headed into election season, right? And I want you to look back at your term that's coming to an end in November. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate yourself, your performance as mayor?
Well, I think that's for other people to judge, and I've done my best. I inherited a city that had years and years of disinvestment. I didn't put the 1,000 abandoned homes in Trenton, and I inherited the water system and a police department that needed reforms. And we've made progress on all those fronts. So I think it's important that election season is an opportunity to have that conversation, to make your case that Trenton is going in the right direction, and the people will decide whether it should be the same direction or a different direction, and I'm good with either.
What direction do you feel that it's going in?
I think it's gone in a positive direction. Real estate is hot right now. Property values have increased 260% in the last 7 years. We've outpaced the county and the state. More developers are in here. If you drive down the streets, you'll see real development, rehabilitation of houses. We took down about 200 that couldn't be saved. We've made real progress in the water department. We've just put in a $763 million capital improvement plan that we're looking forward to implement. In policing, we've done most of the DOJ reforms. We've reconstituted the Internal Affairs Department. We've diversified the force. We just swore in the first African American female captain, the highest ranking officer, and we've sworn in the first Latina female captain as well. We're diversifying the force so that it reflects the neighborhood that we serve, and we've made progress on all the fronts, whether it's public safety, economic development, or water.
Speaking of elections, we just had the inauguration for Governor Mikey Sherrill.
Yes.
She did not hold her inauguration in the capital city. What were your thoughts about that?
Well, outside of the disappointment, she had her reasons, and she wanted to be someone that was independent of Trenton politics. But nonetheless, she's the first candidate to walk down the street of Walnut and look at the abandoned houses and look at the neighborhoods that need a lot of improvement, and she's pledged and followed up on that personally to make sure that we have the resources we need to rehab the neighborhoods and make it safe and affordable for our residents.
How do you develop a relationship with the governor to get some of the needs that Trenton has addressed?
Yeah. Well, part of it is transitional aid, and when I first started, we got $6 million in direct state aid, and I thought that was unworkable. Today it's $55 million. So I've worked with...
That's a big difference.
I've worked with both the Murphy administration, now the Sherrill administration, to make sure that Trenton gets what it needs. Majority of the property in Trenton, 52%, is tax exempt. And so we go to the government every year with our palms up to look for money. And out of a budget of $280 million, $55 million from the state is a big chunk of that to keep property taxes stable. No one's happy with property taxes. They could always be lowered, but we stabled that rather than the drastic increases that we've seen in the past. But we went from $6 million in direct state aid to 55. I think that we're doing pretty good, and we're on a good trajectory to get more in the future.
That's a huge difference, but how much do we need to effectively manage the city? Is that 55 enough?
Well, if the state paid dollar for dollar property taxes, just like you or I, they should give us about 80 million. But again, when we got $6 million from the Chris Christie administration, 10 years ago, we had to lay off 125 police officers. We had to drastically cut the departments, and now we're still making up for that. And we've made real progress by getting recognition from the state that we are the state capital and that they need to really invest in this city to make it work.
Speaking of the police department, how do you recruit and attract officers? Because one of the things that I've read and I heard is that the pay is low for the Trenton Police Department. So how do you recruit these officers?
Absolutely, we're going to be all pleasantly surprised after we finish our police negotiations for a new contract. We want to be competitive with our area municipalities. There are times where police officers graduate from the academy and then they immediately start looking for jobs in the suburbs where they can make more money and less headaches. We're making them competitive, and we also relax the civil service requirements of a test to an application process. So we've had hundreds of people applying to be police officers. We just swore in 30 officers, which a diverse class, and in April we hope to put in another 40 in the academy. So we're trying to bring back our police ranks so that they can patrol the streets, be part of the neighborhood, and at the same time reduce crimes.
Is this job, running the capital city of New Jersey, what you expected it to be?
Well, it's difficult. Anybody who thinks it's fun or that it's easy should not run for office. And it's a difficult job. It's 24/7. I get calls at 2 o'clock in the morning to come out to a fire, the row house fire, or there's been a police shooting, and I think that neighbors want to see their mayor out in the streets fighting for them and making sure that things matter and that things are taken care of.
What's the hardest part of your job?
It's meeting public's expectations. All you have to do is look at a blog or read a paper and see disappointment that things could be better. But we're working on every single one of those matrix, whether it's water, public safety, recreation, health, or economic development. We see a lot of economic development happening. Van Sciver project was jump-started with city dollars. We have the
Could you explain what that is for people who are not familiar with the Van Sciver project?
It's on South Broad Street, and it was an abandoned storefront that looks like a castle. And there's going to be 120 market rate apartments there with some affordable, and that's how we use city dollars for the affordable units. But that a developer has believed in the progress of the expectations of economic development happening in Trenton. The Bell Telephone Building, privately rehabilitated, is now open for market rate property apartments downtown. The old Holiday Inn on Calhoun and West State Street was purchased recently. 28 West State Street is going to be apartments for our residents. So there are a lot of developers who now believe in Trenton to come in here. Like I said, property values have increased about 260%. Council transferred 176 properties last year into private hands. We have great local developers like Andre Williams and Brittany Littlejohn that are doing amazing work on Chambers Street or Passaic and Spring. And the local contractors are really believing in the promise of Trenton and what it will, their investment will mean in the future.
Speaking of economic development, what's the status of the projects between the hotel and the tavern?
Well, those are two different separate stories, but the hotel was long abandoned for about 10 years. Their expectations of selling it were unrealistic. The city applied for a stranded asset grant from the Department of Economic Development. We're going to purchase the hotel. We don't own it yet, but we want to purchase the hotel. The current receivership has accepted that offer. When we get all the ducks in place, we plan to purchase it. Council has already chosen a redeveloper, Tetrabuilt from South Carolina, and they're going to invest about $20 million to rehab the hotel. So there's a lot of moving parts. I know there are suitors that were not happy, but that's what courts are for, to decide those issues. But in the meantime, we intend to purchase it. We intend to give it to the redeveloper the council has selected, and we hope to see a viable downtown hotel opening in the coming years. We have Ginger Peach Bakery from Lawrenceville has taken over the old Starbucks, and so we're excited about having a bakery production facility downtown and making our downtown more livable and viable and walkable. On North Broad Street, with the county's partnership, they're going to be refurbishing those commercial buildings across the street from the college. So it's going to be more inviting. It's going to be more attractive for students to come and study in Mercer County College.
What about the tavern?
The tavern. We applied for an economic corridor grant for $7 million, also from EDA. $3.5 million is for Eagle Tavern. $3.5 million is for Roebling Wireworks, where Art All Night was held. We then raised extra money. It's a $7 million project, Roebling Wireworks. We're using city funds plus the economic development grant. We're going to be refurbishing Roebling Wireworks. We were short on the cost of Eagle Tavern. The first bid came out at $8 million. We got a second bid for 5.3, and the county and the city matched funds to make that happen. So we're going to see the rehabilitation of both Eagle Tavern and Roebling Wireworks.
Do you have a time frame for Eagle Tavern to begin redevelopment?
It would probably take about a year. It's a complex project because it's a historic building. It was built in, I think, 1757. George Washington literally walked past there. If not, he went in there for a grog. But it has to be rehabilitated. It's on the National Registry of Historic Places, so it has to be rehabilitated using historic specifications. That takes a lot of work, and it's delicate, but we hope to see it come in probably within about a year or so.
I'm glad you spoke about economic development as it pertains to the city. One of the issues I hear from patrons as well as business owners is parking.
Yep.
How could you address that? Or are there any plans to address that?
Absolutely. One of the things which has been a disappointment is the Front Street garage. It's structurally unsound. It has to be torn down and rebuilt. So hopefully there'll be more parking options there. During this last snowstorm, we worked with the county to open up county parking lots as well as our downtown garages, begging people, move your car in there because of the snowstorm. We have a hockey team that's coming into downtown Trenton in the arena. So parking is a challenge in any urban area. Any one of us try to go to New York and try to park on the street. It's a challenge, but we hope to, and especially if the hotel opens, that garage is going to be filled with visitors, but they'll be able to also have parking spaces for people who want to visit downtown.
Now, I've seen different flyers online for fundraisers. I don't know exactly for what, so I'm just going to ask you directly. Are you running for this term, a third term as mayor of Trenton, New Jersey? I'm going to have you look on camera and address this. It's either yes or no, Mayor.
Well, I expect to make an announcement in March, so I'm still putting the pieces together. But I think that people will judge me on the record that I've had for 7 years. I'm confident that if the story comes out of what has happened in the last 7 years, people will be satisfied.
Make an announcement for what?
To run for mayor.
So you are?
Whether I will or not,
Okay.
yes, will be in March. Yes.
So you haven't decided?
Well, then nobody will show up if I if I tell you now.
Hey, listen, I have you on the show. I'm going to ask you directly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be making an announcement in March.
All right. So we have a poster here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to explain to the viewers what is
Well,
this setup right
yes. There's a lot more things to come into than turning on your faucet and having your expectations that there be clean water. All of these mechanisms we've worked on in the last 7 years, starting with the intake.
But I have to ask you, was this created before all of the talks about frizzle ice, people experiencing cloudy water from their faucet? Was this beforehand, or was this created recently?
Probably about a year ago, and this was because to go into schools or to go into senior citizens to talk about the water system, that it is complex and it has a lot of moving parts. But in the last 7 years, we've made more investment into the water department. For the first time, we were ordered in the 70s to replace the water reservoir. We're actually doing that. It's not wise to have one place of storage of water. We have about a 3-day supply in there. We take 33 million gallons of water each day from the Delaware. So when there is frazzle ice, that disrupts that. And that is something that we have to look to, whether it's a design flaw or not. We were ordered by DEP to replace our intake. We get it. It was built in 1950. And we replaced that. It was a $9 million project. But then along came frazzle ice, is that slushy ice. Hard ice we're fine with because there's a channel underneath the water. But slushy ice tended to go inside the intake and cause blockages.
What's going on with the water system? Every day there is conversation. Mm-hmm. I don't think people feel comfortable enough knowing how the system operates. Could you address the talks about regionalization? Mm-hmm. Also, how safe is our water?
Our water meets federal drinking water standards. Otherwise, we would be completely shut down. We actually sell water to Aqua, which is our neighbor, and last year, when Burlington City's water main broke, DEP asked us to supply them water. So there is confidence enough for privatized water companies to buy our water. And we supply water to 200,000 consumers. That represents 60,000 ratepayers. We just came up with a $760 million capital improvement plan so that in the next 10 years, we're going to have a water system that we hope that maintains the confidence of our consumers. Our service municipalities, we service 5 municipalities. Hamilton, which is only half of Hamilton, is served by Trenton Water Works. The other half is by Aqua, and like I said, we supply water to Aqua. They would like a piece of it. This water department creates revenue for the city of Trenton. So
how much?
It pays enough to run the system, but we take about $5 million each year, and again, in a $280 million budget. That means a lot to us. So we want to continue to not only create jobs for Trentonian. During my last 7 years, we've hired more water workers than before. We've done more improvements to the system than before. So since 2010, we've made real progress. Whether it's enough or not, that that is something that could be discussed. But also, some of the discussions come after this terrible snowstorm. And if you watch the news, you see water main breaks in Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia, and Newark, and in New York. It happens when we have sub-freezing weather temperatures. Water mains breaks. This is the second oldest water authority in the nation. And so we have some old infrastructure, but we're determined to replace the things that need to be replaced and work on the mechanisms that will work better after we invest money into it. So $760 million is going to be a lot of improvements to this water system.
Which is going to come at an increase of reportedly 14%.
Yeah, over the course of years, but it's working with council. It's going to be a 5% rate increase for most consumers, and each year in increments rather than all at once. So. Yes, if you want to, and actually with the regional authority, not only are they going to have to pay the $760 million capital improvement plan, but they're also going to have to compensate the residents of Trenton. It would be a taking, and so it's been estimated that the value of Trenton Water Works is about $700 million. So you're going to talk about a 28% increase if we're taken over by authority. My argument is help us get there, and this is talking to the state. We're making real progress, and we will continue to do so with the capital improvement plan and more consumer confidence in the water system.
Mayor, I'm glad you mentioned jobs. How do you plan to attract more businesses to the city to create economic opportunity for those who live here?
We have to do two things. We have to ensure investors that the streets are safe, so that's why we're investing in public safety. But the economic development confidence is here. You'll hear from some bloggers that the sky is falling and it's the end of the world and this is a terrible place to live. That doesn't help attract investors. We took this long to get an investor to come in to refurbish the hotel. We're working on making a viable downtown that attracts people who are looking for a place to go. We have all these new housing options, whether it's the Bell Building or Van Sciver. So all of that will generate more economic activity. One of the things that we even did was for affordable housing is we got a choice neighborhood grant from the federal government, the Biden administration. 35 cities applied, only 7 received it, and the winners were Syracuse, Miami, Las Vegas, Houston, Huntsville, Alabama, Chattanooga, and Trenton. So even the federal government had enough confidence in us to reimagine the landscape in the North Ward around Donnelly Homes. So we're working with the Housing Authority, Capitol Health Hospital, Tetracycle, and other partners to really reimagine the North Ward. And so as we revitalize the city, there's going to be more confidence for jobs to come in here. Roebling Block 2, a 7-acre site, we have a redeveloper has 6-month site control to come up with a plan on how to redevelop Roebling Block 2. So you're going to see a transformation in the next 10 years that is going to rise above everyone's expectations.
Do you have any data on who's actually moving into Trenton?
I think it's all of the above, especially young folks can't afford Philadelphia, can't afford New York. Studies have shown they're looking for mid-sized cities to live. There's a lot of students from TCNJ who decide to make their mark in the area. They're interested in moving into Trenton. But again, you have to have a public safety component. You have to have confidence in the city. And there's a small group that likes to tear that down, tear the city down. And I don't know to what end, but I think that Trenton's better days are to come in the future, and that's what we're working to prepare for.
For those who may not know your background, your father worked in Trenton.
Yes.
Yes. So
He worked for the Department of Health, and I used to come when I was a little kid in downtown Trenton when we had a pedestrian mall on East State Street. I actually had lunch with my father at Eagle Tavern.
You did?
Okay, right before it closed. I went to the restaurants in Chambersburg when they were there. And even Chambersburg is transforming. There were always immigrants that came into Chambersburg, whether to work for Roebling Wireworks or other industry that was here. And now we have a big Latino population moving in, and you see a lot of Spanish restaurants opening. There's probably about 200 small businesses that are in Chambersburg making that neighborhood work.
what is your administration doing to protect the immigrant communities in our city? Given ICE raids, because they're here.
Yep.
And are we officially a sanctuary city?
We were designated that when Doug Palmer was mayor, but I don't think that it's an official that the Trump administration had to actually take us off that list. And that's walking a tightrope. We protect everyone, and we don't discriminate, and we want to be a welcoming city. We don't want the Trump administration targeting us like Minneapolis. But we feel that ICE would be better served if they went out to look for the bad guys. That was the promise originally of the Trump administration, that they were going to pick up the worst of the worst and take them out of their country. We welcome that, but that hasn't played out. They're going after day laborers, indiscriminately taking parents away, leaving children here. They called the police and said, come up and pick these children up because we're taking the parents away. So we would prefer ICE. They're the federal government. They could, they can do whatever they want as long as the Supreme Court allows them. And but time will tell. Trump has taken a real setback in popularity from what they did in Minneapolis, and I don't want that to happen in Trenton. And I think we'll be a loud voice if they even think about coming in like they came in Minneapolis.
But they are here.
They've come up, not to the degree of Minneapolis where they're patrolling the streets and disrupting businesses, but it is disconcerting because if you talk to the merchants, we just had a meeting in Chambersburg with Latino merchants and some of the pastors, and there's real concern that ICE is scaring away business, scaring away jobs. And that is not what economic development should be all about. And the Trump administration, shame on them for tolerating ICE to just run amok in urban areas in the country.
Is the Trenton Police Department cooperating with ICE?
No, but there's a perception that they are. First of all, there's an Attorney General's directive that we are not to cooperate with ICE. And so as a result, ICE doesn't communicate with us. They just do their deeds. But then invariably, there's a ruckus caused. Sometimes there's a resistance organization, and police are called, and we show up to the scene to keep the peace. But that's not cooperation. That's keeping the peace in the streets. Also, like I said, ICE told us that there were children in a house, so we had to take over. And we're not cooperating with ICE, but we can't help that. Someone gave me a call that there was ICE in Unity Park. I said, let me see for myself. Went over there, and they were sheriff's officers looking for a 12-year-old. So there's some misperception that ICE is rampant when there are other law enforcement agencies that are in town working operations.
And that misinformation could be a danger to our community.
Absolutely. There was U.S. Marshals were out to pick up the bad guy, and it was posted on Facebook that ICE is here, and look out. There has been instances where other prosecutors' office were going after someone with guns, And there was a group that showed up and tried to interfere with that operation. Had nothing to do with ICE.
I can tell you this. I wouldn't want your job. So I commend anybody who's willing to serve at the public level. What's the best part of being mayor of New Jersey?
It's doing stuff.
Capital city.
And it's doing stuff. I was in the legislature for 22 years, and that's also helps me with my relationship with the Speaker, the Senate President, and with the Governor. But when you come into being an executive, you work on refurbishing parks, you provide health care, opening up health clinics, and working on people's problems. You talked before about a pothole. I get into the weeds on potholes when somebody notifies City Hall or the mayor's office, and we do get those phone calls. I'm able to call down to Public Works and say, please address this. Paving, we're trying to pave as much as possible. We have 200 miles of roads in the city, so we can't pave everything. We have to prioritize, and that's where an executive comes in to make the decisions and to prioritize how you're going to do these road projects, how you're going to fix somebody's sidewalk. We have a city tree between the curb and the sidewalk that lifts up the sidewalk. I'll get a call from one of the residents and say, you're lifting up a sidewalk, you're making it dangerous. Can you please fix this? And then we'll show up with the Shade Tree Commission, take care of the tree, and Public Works to take care of the sidewalk.
Do we have a director of economic development?
We do. Yolanda Vasquez is our acting director, so she's an interim director, but every day, like I said, last year we transferred 176 properties to private owners. We're also a victim of our own success because there's about 400 applications pending for our abandoned properties. So on the one hand, it's a good thing. On the other hand, it's frustrating. But it's also good to work with somebody like Brittany Littlejohn or Andre Williams to make sure that we have local contractors that are coming in and creating jobs that are making real improvements. If you go down Chambers Street, a block away from the high school, you see a real transformation from houses that were supposed to be demolished. And Andre said, give them to me. And we said, okay, because it's cheaper for us. It costs about $60,000 to demolish one house. There were 34 properties slated to be demolished. That would have cost us $1.2 million. Brittany, Andre, and another developer came in and said, we'll take those houses. And so saves the city $1.2 million. And right now, guess what? Those 34 houses are being rehabbed. Brittany's doing one on Stuyvesant Avenue. The whole facade came down. It had to be demolished. She said, I'll take it.
Now, everything can be placed on you. What do you need to effectively do your job, to run this city to the best of your ability? Because prior to this term, I've seen reports that you cited a contentious city council.
Yeah.
Now you guys seem to be working together, so you have that. What else do you need? What are the ingredients to help you run the capital city of New Jersey in an effective manner?
Well, the buck stops here, so I'll take responsibility for all of it. But it does help to have a good council. The first council in my first years on water, the third phase of lead service line replacement, they voted down. They would have rather had kids drink leaded water than show an accomplishment from this water department. We were purchasing disinfectant chemicals. They voted it down with the rationale that those chemicals weren't made in Trenton. It's kind of hard to set up a chemical company overnight, and that rationale was just, it was also overturned by DEP ordering us, you got to purchase it anyway. So we do have good assistance from the state, from the county. We're working great with a great administration, a great county executive, and we're working with 7 rational actors that really see the vision of moving the city forward, making sure that properties are transferred from abandoned properties do us no good because they're not on the tax roll. And the rest of us have to make up for abandoned properties that generate no property taxes. So by getting them refurbished, by giving them to developers, they now go on the tax roll. So I'm really grateful to this council for seeing that we all have to work together, that politics should have nothing to do with economic development or water or even public safety.
How do you retain, what do you do to retain staff? Because I guess what I'm asking you is, or what I'm alluding to is that you are only as good as the people who you surround yourself around, right? And you have a lot of people who have exited their positions. How do you retain staff, and how do you build up for, I'm giving you an example, the economic development director. There's been quite a few people within that role, and that impacts continuity.
It does and it
doesn't. Different projects. It does. It does.
It does and it doesn't. So I'll agree with you there. But just like police officers, the pay is low, but the rewards are great. And even with or without a economic development director, you still have staff that are moving the ball forward. In spite of ourselves, our economic development team teamed up with the Housing Authority and got the Choice Neighborhood Award. In spite of ourselves, we're for the first time going to reopen the hotel. It's not going to be a swan song, but it's going to be done with a lot of work. And in spite of ourselves, we transferred 176 properties to private owners. And in spite of ourselves, we were able to jumpstart the Jennings Village on Brunswick Avenue, the Van Sciver building. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we're still getting it done. If we had more revenue, we would be able to increase the pay and get those mega developers that somehow DCA wants us to get to run the department. But I think we do, with what we have, we do a pretty good job.
So we're heading into July, which means the celebration of the Declaration of Independence signing.
Yes.
What does the capital city have planned?
Well, we're working with not only the county, but with the state and the federal government. There's, in some sense, there's too many cooks and too many ideas. But where Trenton's part is the crossing of the Delaware, which happens on Christmas during Patriots Week, where we hope to have a lot of visitors for that reenactment. Also on July 8th was the 250th anniversary of the reading of the Declaration of Independence for the first time in New Jersey. And the next day it was read in New Brunswick, and the following day it was read in Rahway. So our 4th of July celebration will be on July 8th, where we're going to have events on South Warren Street, where 250 years ago the Declaration of Independence was read. And we hope to have a big communal coming out to reread the Declaration of Independence and celebrate our 250th anniversary. We also want to work with the old barracks to make sure that we attract out-of-town visitors to come to our historic spots. City owns about 24 historic properties that some you would have heard of and some you may not. But we're working on that, like Eagle Tavern, to get that reopened, the Roebling Wire Works, the Douglas House, where George Washington planned the Battle of Princeton. That's in Mill Hill Park. We refurbished Jackson Bridge, which is a historic bridge, and that's a place that people come out to. And the House Music Festival was in Mill Hill, and Jackson Bridge was a place for dancing and music and pop-up art. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to do wholesale that we can attract historic tourism into the capital city.
I love the city. It's beautiful, and I believe that there's a lot of opportunity here. What would you say to people who have misconceptions about the city, that it's unsafe? There's a lot of crime. There's nothing to do here.
Well, we've made real progress in crime. During COVID, there were 40 homicides. Now it's down into the teens. That's one homicide is one too many. We're bringing back a police force to the roles when Doug Palmer was mayor. Again, when we lost all our state aid, we had to lay off 125 police officers. And economic development is bringing back a hotel so that people can come down to the bar or come to a banquet there. The Ginger Peach is going to be a great place, not only to create jobs, to make baked goods, but also to sell baked goods. You've seen investors, Leo, at the station, spent a lot of money to refurbish the station. And so there's a lot of restaurateurs that are spending real dollars to rehab their properties, but also attract more visitors.
In 20 years from now, what do you want your legacy to be as mayor of the city?
Well,
as you look back,
I think to doing the right thing and to making sure that Trenton is on an upward trajectory. We could be in New Brunswick. We could be even downtown Newark that has had a lot of investment, whether it's a performing arts center or their arena. So if we can attract more development dollars, we could be a city that people are proud to live in and to play in and to hang out for generations to come.
So what's next for you?
Making sure that we get the water system right, to making sure that economic development is on that upward trajectory, to working with the schools to make sure that their education quality is upward. You see a lot of even investments with the charter schools and with our public schools. We're building another school right behind Dunn School. Foundation Academy is opening up a high school in the old doll factory that was abandoned for 40, 50 years. So there's a lot of good things happening even in our educational system.
You mentioned the police force. Did you implement any of the recommendations by the Department of Justice when they released their report?
Absolutely.
And if so, what were they?
Well, reconstituting the Internal Affairs Department, putting in more body cameras, diversifying the ranks, also moving towards accreditation. In and of itself, that exercise makes sure that the citizens' rights are protected and that police are doing the right things at all times. And that was the major components of the DOJ report. So even though the Trump administration took over, we decided to implement those recommendations anyway because it was the right thing to do.
I spoke to Josie Edwards, at-large Councilwoman Josie Edwards, and she said that she wanted to create a citizens review board, but you weren't open to making that happen.
We've done the Citizens Review Board by having implementing the recommendations of the DOJ report. There's nothing stopping council from creating the Citizens Review Board, but it has to follow New Jersey Supreme Court guidelines. So they could do that if they want. It's not to. There's also a Citizens Review Board. Do you allow them to interview witnesses? Do you allow them to interfere with a court proceeding? So there's a lot of concepts of what a Citizens Review Board, but as long as it follows the guidelines of the court, I'm all for it. But we're doing the recommendations of the Biden administration, and we're diversifying the ranks, and you're not having the problems, and there's always rogue employees in any field, and we punish those that are not adhering to the rules of being a proper police officer.
What's the status of the Fight the Blight program?
We're engaging in it right now. I mean, Andre Williams is fighting the blight every day, Brittany Littlejohn is. We're transforming as many houses as possible. Council they're going to oversee another 400 applications for housing. So that is Fight the Blight.
I was thinking about specifically Sanford Street because I remember I went to a press conference there where you had the homes, some of the homes on that block demolished.
Yep.
What's the outcome?
And also on Sweets and Fountain, and that's all part of the Choice neighborhood. We had to present to the federal government a plan of how do you reimagine a whole ward surrounded by public housing. And what we want to do is make Donnelly Homes ultimately the same as Turner's Point, which is north of there. And we want to have a developer come in and reimagine Fountain, Sweets, and Sanford. We couldn't do that unless we cleared that track. We make it easier for a developer to come in. But there is also a plan that's in the next phases of the Choice Neighborhood plan. First phase is Junior 1 site. That's going to be senior housing and mixed commercial use. We're going to be working on 200 properties that we transferred to the Housing Authority, helping with a $10 million pledge from Capitol Health to refurbish those houses, move the residents out of Donnelly Homes into those homes, and then reimagine Donnelly Homes. So that's the whole concept. We're also doing streetscaping improvements on Martin Luther King Boulevard. And you're going to see a very different North Ward in the next 10 years. It's not going to happen overnight, but we have a partnership not only with Capitol Health, but with the Housing Authority, federal government, and making this happen.
Now, what do you do to relax? I'm sure you got a stressful job. You laughing, but like, is there a place in Trenton that you go just to unwind or relax?
Yeah, I like to visit the restaurants that are downtown. I'll enjoy visiting the indoor skate park at Roebling Wireworks, which is the only indoor skate park in New Jersey.
Skateboard?
I've attempted,
Okay.
But I enjoy watching. We're building a outdoor skate park on Taylor Street, on the old Antico factory site. And we're going to be refurbishing neighborhoods. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy helping people, but I do like to travel. I like to hike. Enjoy going to the beach in the summertime, and just to take a little break. Just went to Washington, D.C. for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Mayor Palmer was down there. And talking to other mayors and working on innovation and how to improve services in urban America.
Before we close this interview, I'm curious to know, who do you trust enough to advise you? Do you have a mentor on handling sensitive subjects pertaining to the city?
I think there's a lot of people that are out there. I enjoy my relationship with our 15th legislative delegation. I've worked with Senator Shirley Turner for almost 30 years, probably at this time. For Lena Reynolds Jackson, I served a short time in the legislature with her. Anthony Varelli is very helpful. It's even good to reach out to the 14th legislative district, whether it's Tennille McCoy or Wayne D'Angelo, to see what is happening in the state and where the capital city can play a part in that. Those relations have really helped. Trenton is a tough town because we have federal involvement, we have state involvement, we have county involvement. We're the county seat. And then we also have relationships with our council people. So a mayor has to be confident enough to work on all of those levels and make sure that in the end, Trenton benefits.
All right. Listen, I have so many questions for you. We only have a certain amount of time, but I have to ask you this. Club City Hall. Mm-hmm. That last summer, they deemed it Club City Hall. Yep. I've also seen videos online where there were people, it appeared to be overdosing, or they had EMT picking them up. Mm-hmm. directly across the street from City Hall. What does that say to people about respecting the institution of the city, City Hall, where you see people hanging out at the corner, sitting on the steps, partying, and how do you address that?
Yeah, there's a difference. In the old days, you could just lock them up, and you can't do that any longer. So we're also working with the Rescue Mission, Homefront, and Trenton Area Soup Kitchen. Our health department is working on rehabilitation programs and to have real interdiction. We have with the police Arrive Together, where we send counselors with the police to try to get people into drug treatment. They're not going to do it unless they agree to do it. And that was one of the reasons why we shut down Club City Hall. I know Weedman wasn't happy with that. But it was an attractive nuisance, and people were encouraged to come to City Hall, sit on the steps, party, and then leave all their wares and bottles at the end of the night. And we've largely cleaned that all up. And it's unfortunate because police have better things to do in the other neighborhoods. But this was where a concerted effort to disrupt downtown. And I think we're working on that to make sure that downtown is safe as well. We're also working on a Class 2 program for police officers where you can get entry-level officers, train them, but also be able to patrol the downtown. So it frees up police time but has real officers during the day and night in downtown patrolling the streets.
And that will help businesses as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there any questions that I did not ask you during this interview that you want to be asked, or that someone never asked you as it pertains to the work that you do that you would like to be asked?
Well, there's 10 departments, so we could talk about all 10 departments. But one of the things, recreation, we take pride. We have 60 parks, 60 parks in the city. We refurbished 26 of them in the last year. And we've invested real dollars that we've obtained grant funding for. We've also been able to have recreation equipment for special needs children who now can enjoy the parks with sensory equipment that they enjoy. Our pools, come to Hetzel Pool, that was a secret garden before my term. It was completely abandoned. Now it won a state award in design. Cooper Pool, we put in soccer pitches. We're doing a soccer field in Unity Park. And we're trying to address recreation needs of our city.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well.